Coach Ben Scott, portrayed by Steven Kruger in Yellowjackets, offers a compelling subject for psychological analysis. As the assistant coach of the WHS Yellowjackets, a high school girls' football team stranded in the Canadian Hash Wilderness after a plane crash, Ben's behavior reflects a complex interplay of trauma, identity conflict, and survival instincts. His arc in the 1996 timeline provides insight into how extreme circumstances erode psychological stability, challenge moral frameworks, and reshape identity. This analysis examines Ben's behavior through the lenses of trauma response, moral disengagement, dissociation, and power dynamics, drawing on his experiences in the wilderness and brief glimpses of his pre-crash life. Ben initially presents as a cheerful, supportive coach, an authority figure guiding teenage girls. The plane crash, which strands them for 19 months, disrupts this role. The amputation of his leg, performed by Misty Quigley to save his life, marks a profound physical and psychological trauma. This event triggers acute stressors, physical pain, loss of mobility, and a shift from authority to dependency. Trauma theory suggests such events can lead to post-traumatic stress responses, including hypervigilance, emotional numbing, or dissociation. Ben exhibits these traits as he grapples with his new reality, his authority undermined by physical limitations and the girl's growing autonomy. His early withdrawal aligns with the freeze response in the fight-flight-freeze-fawn model, where he emotionally distances himself to manage overwhelming stress. The amputation is not only physical but also symbolic. Ben's leg represents his agency and masculinity, both tied to his identity as a coach. Its loss forces him into vulnerability, challenging his sense of self. Psychologically, this aligns with identity disruption, where a traumatic event compels an individual to renegotiate their self-concept. Ben's cheerful demeanor fades, replaced by increasing isolation and despair. His refusal to participate in the group's cannibalism in Series 2 further alienates him, positioning him as an outsider. This refusal reflects an attempt to cling to his pre-crash moral framework, a superego-driven resistance to the group's descent into primal survival tactics. Freud's model of the psyche, with the superego as the moral compass, is evident in Ben's initial role as the group's ethical guide, though this role becomes increasingly untenable. As the series progresses, Ben's behavior shifts towards dissociation, a common response to overwhelming trauma. Dissociation involves a disconnection from reality, often manifesting as daydreams or fantasies that serve as an escape. In Series 2, Ben experiences vivid hallucinations of an alternate life where he chooses to live openly with his boyfriend, Paul, rather than boarding the doomed plane. These visions reflect a psychological retreat into a safer, idealized past, a coping mechanism for the unbearable present. The hallucinations also highlight Ben's internal conflict over his closeted identity, a source of shame and repression pre-crash. His secret relationship with Paul, concealed due to societal pressures, adds a psychological burden. The wilderness, devoid of societal norms, paradoxically both exacerbates and liberates this tension, as Ben is free from external judgment but trapped in a new torment. Ben's psychological deterioration is compounded by shifting power dynamics among the survivors. As the only adult, he begins with nominal authority, but the girl's descent into ritualistic cannibalism and cult-like behaviors under Lottie's influence strips him of control. Social identity theory suggests that group dynamics can redefine individual roles, and Ben's status as an authority figure crumbles as the girls form a new social order. His physical disability and moral stance against cannibalism mark him as an outsider, reducing his social capital. This loss of power is psychologically devastating, undermining his sense of purpose and belonging. By Series 2's finale, Ben's decision to burn the cabin, whether intentional or not, can be interpreted as an act of desperation or rebellion, a final attempt to assert agency in a situation where he feels powerless. If deliberate, this act aligns with moral disengagement, where individuals justify harmful actions to cope with cognitive dissonance. Ben may rationalize the fire as a way to halt the group's moral decay, though it risks their lives. In Series 3, Ben's psychological state reaches a critical point. His retreat to Javi's cave signifies a complete withdrawal from the group, a physical manifestation of his psychological isolation. The cave becomes a liminal space where Ben's mental stability unravels further. His interactions with Marie, whom he holds captive to prevent her from revealing his location, suggest a shift towards paranoia and self-preservation. This behavior marks a departure from his earlier moral stance, indicating a partial surrender to the survivalist instincts he once resisted. The possibility that Ben is communing with a supernatural entity, as hinted in Series 3, raises questions about psychosis or spiritual susceptibility. Psychologically, this could be interpreted as a stress-induced psychotic break, where the boundaries between reality and delusion blur, or as a projection of his guilt and fear onto the wilderness itself. Ben's eventual fate in Series 3, his trial, conviction, and death, underscores the psychological toll of his circumstances. The group's decision to execute him, driven by their belief that he had burnt the cabin, reflects their moral disengagement and projection of blame. Ben's hunger strike and request for a mercy kill from Natalie reveal a final acceptance of his powerlessness. This act of self-sacrifice contrasts with his earlier survival efforts, suggesting a resolution of his internal conflict. Psychologically, it aligns with Freud's concept of the death drive, an unconscious desire for self-destruction in the face of overwhelming suffering. Ben's death, followed by the group's consumption of his body, is a tragic irony, as the one who resisted cannibalism becomes its victim. Broadly, Ben's behavior reflects the fragility of the human psyche under extreme conditions. The wilderness strips away societal norms, forcing him to confront repressed aspects of his identity, from his sexuality to his moral boundaries. His arc illustrates how trauma can erode identity, leading to dissociation, moral compromise, and ultimately, self-destruction. The supernatural elements in Yellowjackets, whether real or imagined, amplify this psychological unraveling, serving as a metaphor for the chaos within. Ben's story is a cautionary tale about the limits of resilience when faced with unrelenting trauma and isolation. In conclusion, Coach Ben's behavior in Yellowjackets provides a poignant exploration of psychological survival. His journey from authority figure to isolated outcast reflects the devastating impact of trauma, powerlessness, and moral conflict. Through dissociation, moral disengagement, and eventual surrender, Ben's arc encapsulates the human struggle to maintain identity and ethics in the face of existential crises. His tragic end underscores the series' central theme: in the wilderness, both literal and psychological, survival often comes at the cost of one's humanity.